Well, thank you. I appreciate you wanting to be a part of this conversation. I wanted to start off by introducing myself. My name is Matthew Hines. Today's interview will be about me, and with me, who will be facilitating this interview about my disability narrative, is Andy Hansen. Thank you, Andy, for being a part of this and helping us this evening.
You're very welcome. Glad to help out.
Yeah. And Andy, I really appreciate you doing this, and I reached out to you because we've known each other for a long time now, and I believe that you have this really great ability to look at both sides of something and kind of pick apart the things on each side and kind of make sense of things. And I think what was really important for me about my disability narrative is to have somebody conduct this interview who is not disabled, who doesn't have experiences as a disabled person, who might not have been around a lot of disabled people for the diverse experiences that come with that. So I appreciate you stepping in with me to do this.
Well, thank you for the invitation.
Yeah.
All right. Can you tell everyone a little bit about your disability?
Yeah. So I don't have any history in my family of my disability, but I was born with a very rare eye disease called Peters anomaly. And that essentially is basically when my eye was forming during the time that I was, basically in my in my mom being, when she was pregnant, and as I was growing and getting ready to obviously come into the world, the cells, the epithelial cells in my eyes did not enough of them were there, or they grew into cells that cause basically incorrect, like my eyes formed incorrectly internally. A lot of the internal mechanics of my eyes aren't what they should be. And so, like, for example, one of the things that we see is disruption in the corneas, disruption in the vision. I also was born with congenital glaucoma. So I've been struggling with keeping my eye pressure low as well, which is also a common sign of Peters anomaly. One thing I will say about Peters anomaly that most people don't know is that Peters anomaly is not always just an eye disease. Peters anomaly can also be accompanied by severe cognitive disabilities, or even further severe physical disabilities, deformities of the human body, other structures of the human body also forming improperly. So it's a little bit of a nerdy way of getting into my disability. Essentially, what the most important thing to know is that I've been blind since I was birthed in some form or another. When I was 6 months old, because I had been born completely blind, I had my first surgery to try to fix my corneas and to try for a lens implant, and that failed. And so I had probably 10 surgeries by the time I was 4 years old. My one of the surgeries finally took, and I was able to get vision good. Well, not good enough by any means, measurable, but it was the best I had gotten up to that point. I was able to get up to a visual acuity of about 2300 in one eye, which means it's something that somebody can see 20 feet away. Something that somebody can see 300 feet away. I have to be 20 feet away to see it. And then with my right eye, my vision is not measurable. So it's always been that way. And then that vision lasted me throughout most of my grade school years and high school years and into my college years. But that vision, unfortunately, because of the glaucoma, slowly faded away. And I lost about 99% of my vision up to this point. So now all I have is light perception, I can see silhouettes and shadows and movements and colors, and if I am in certain lighting conditions, I can see things. But right now, I would best describe my vision as just light perception. And that's probably the best way I would kind of describe how my disability has affected me.
Okay. Do you have anything else to add on being an adult with this disability?
No, I would say that the adults, I believe that my adjustment to blindness as an adult has been and would have been far easier than my adjustment as a kid. You know, when I was a kid, didn't know enough, didn't experience enough to know what I was missing, right? There were things that were really important to me that I enjoyed as a kid. I was a big video game player. I was big into playing sports growing up. Both those things, unfortunately, I was not able to continue doing once I reached adult age years, just because of my vision loss. You know, I had some other opportunities that came to me as well. So I would say, as far as like just differences between growing up with it and then being grown up with it, you know, I'm able to handle it and handle the emotions that come with it, handle the ups and downs a lot better. When I was a teenager, I would lash out, I was angry, I would take it out on people, the ones that I loved and the ones that I didn't. So, you know, I think that I've become more at peace with my disability as I've grown older.
That's very mature of you.
I do try.
Yeah. What do you ultimately want people to know about you?
I think I mean, wow, where to start? You know, I've always wanted people to, I never have wanted to be inspiration porn for people, ever. I've always wanted people to see me as unique. I've always wanted people to see me as uncomparable to someone else. Those who know me probably know that there's really no comparison in good ways and bad. I think that I'd like people to know that I fight like hell for my rights and for the rights of others. I want people to also know that my journey is a journey that millions and millions and millions of people, other people go through. I don't have all the answers. I haven't been through the worst of things, and I certainly haven't been through the best of things. I think I just want people to know that I'm a fighter, that I fight for people, that I've never taken no for an answer, and that I'm also comfortable in my own skin. You know, as we'll talk about in a minute, you know, things were not easy for me growing up. And the things that happened to me growing up might have changed somebody, altered somebody, made somebody a certain way towards the world and based on what the world did to them. And I also want the world to know that while I am still pissed at the world, I also don't hold it against them, because I've grown up and understand why the world is the way it is.
Okay. Very interesting points. You know, working in the field that we do, and you've told me some of these instances where people with disabilities have been asked some pretty messed up questions and have been the butt of some really awful statements. Are we able to go through some of these?
Yeah, I'd love to. That'd be fun.
All right. First off, how can you see me, and are you sure you are blind?
You know, I've gotten that one a lot, right? You know, I talked earlier a little bit about how I, you know, was able to have some vision and then had no vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
I like to explain to people that blindness, is like hunger. There's a spectrum, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can be full or you can be starving, and then in the middle you can be, you know, satisfied, right? Well, with blindness, there's a spectrum. There's totally blind, there's you know, low vision, right? And then there's you know, legally blindness, and then there's not blind, right?
Yeah.
And so what people fail to understand is that, like, they just hear that someone is blind and they think, oh, you're totally blind. Or if you can see a little bit, they don't understand that blindness is like a really diverse, broad label, right? Like, it can mean many things. It could mean that you're colorblind but you see really well. It could mean that you can't see well at all but you're not colorblind. It could mean that you see through polka dots, like Stargards is another example, right? Tunnel vision. There's so many different facets the vision could be if you're blind. And so people just ignorantly will ask, like, you know, how if I'm looking straight at you and you're talking to me, they can't fathom how I'm looking right at you while you're talking to me, because to them, a blind person shouldn't be able to track where they're talking from. So it a lot of times it has even nothing to do with vision. I'm using my ears to hear you,
Right.
and I'm looking as best as I can at you. That doesn't mean I can see you, but it also doesn't mean I can't see you either. And so I think people just need to understand that, like, you got to have a little bit more nuanced thinking and open your eyes to the possibility that blindness, like any disability, has severity
Yeah.
and non-severity.
Well, I'd say that through our culture in America, you've learned, you know, proper manners, that you look at somebody or towards somebody when they speak to you. So proper etiquette would be you look in at their face or in their general direction out of courtesy.
Exactly. And am I sure that I'm blind? Yeah, I'm pretty damn sure I'm blind.
So
Trust me.
So-
Every time I stub my toe or run into a corner
yeah.
or miss a step, or have somebody walk up and ask me, I am reminded. Trust me, it's there every day.
Now, if you are really blind, how many fingers am I holding up?
Oh God, I've heard that one so many. You know what? It's funny when people used to ask me that, I used to say, I don't know, how many fingers am I holding up? And that was all. Just because it is such a, it literally is a question that required no thought. Like, they took no thought into that question, and there's nothing that pisses me off more than people that don't think before they speak or don't try to understand something before they speak. And so those types of questions are questions where I just have no, that's where probably my youth comes out, where I don't have that patience to be like, oh, MG, okay, well, let me try to explain this. I don't have the capacity for some of that. I need a little bit more from humans. You know, they say that nobody meets you halfway. I'm trying to meet humanity halfway. I need them to meet me the other half.
Right.
So.
Well, this next one's interesting. Can't you just get a new eye?
Or two, in my case.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's a fair question in some circumstances, but again, that's about understanding severity of disability, severity of blindness, right? There are some people that you could ask that to, and it might be a meaningful question, right? Like I know, I've worked with, people and have known people who have prosthetic eyes, right? So if you ask them, can't you get a new eye? They might reach into their backpack and pull out an eyeball with a different, with a different pattern to it and pop it in, and right?
Yeah,
hey, new eye. There you go. Answered your question, right? But no, not always. For example, people ask me a lot, can I repair my eyes? Can I have surgery? I've had over 30 surgeries on my eyes since I was a kid. I have no more healthy tissue in my eyes to have surgery. What's done is done, and I'm left with what I'm left with. The only thing now I can do is to stave off losing the rest of my vision through eye drops and through cannabis and through other different means to try to prolong what I do have left, since I can no longer seek medical attention.
Yeah, I'm curious. You brought up cannabis. What does that help you with? Is that?
So people have different thoughts and ideas about that. Cannabis for me has always been a lifesaver because I get constant migraines, especially brought on by light sensitivity. Like you can see the lights are really bright in here and my eyes are closed quite often. It's because I'm trying to avoid perpetuating my migraines and headaches from the glaucoma. See, what happens with glaucoma is that your pressure in your optic nerve is suffocating the nerve. It's killing the healthy cells, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, that can create migraines, swarming migraines throughout your head. The cannabis has been the only thing to ever really take the edge off for me when my symptoms are really bad, and it's really only been the thing that I've ever been able to point to and say, this combined with eye drops is the best thing for me, and especially now that I don't have surgery as an option, this is really my best hope at this point.
Fair. Fair. Does your family live with you and take care of you?
Well, my family has lived with me before, but I tend to believe that at some point in our society, families do live with one another, right? Like I've lived with my family a couple times, they've lived with me for various reasons, but it's never been to take care of me. I'll actually give you the counter example of that. When I was 19 years old, because my family was so loving and so caring and never wanted me to experience hardship, it was really hard for them to learn boundaries and letting me be my own person for self-determination, right? To have that self-agency. Not that they didn't want me to have it, they really did encourage me to have it, they just didn't know how to teach me to have it. What ended up happening is I just received the motivation to just do it on my own. When I was 19, I went to my family and said I want to move to a different state and go to school and be around new people. And that was hard for them because they, in their life, could never imagine that. Not to say that they didn't think I could do it, but it was a whole new ballgame for them. Like they really didn't have any clue what life was going to look like for me because my family had never been around any other families with people with kids who were disabled. They'd never been around any other people who were blind. They never put me around anybody who was blind. I didn't have role models growing up. I didn't have blind peers to look up to in my early years. So this was really an eye-opener for them, and I wanted to do it because I wanted to break the cycle. I wanted to be seen as an equal, and I knew that if I did this, and I succeeded, that I didn't do it to gain respect. I just did it so that I could prove that I could.
And validation. Social validation.
Not just to me, but to them, to everyone.
Yeah.
Like I'm ready. Like you don't think I'm ready, but I'm ready.
Well, and through our conversations, you've lived in Utah, Arizona, California, and in Canada.
Yep, and I've traveled to Australia and to Finland and to Mexico, to parts of Europe, to the Caribbean, to the parts of Asia. So I have moved beyond what that originally was meant to be, and I've proved that I can do that, and so. My family is always there to support me. My family is always there to supplement assistance when needed. But I've gotten to a really great point with my family where I ask for it and they reciprocate, but they do not actively push it on me or seek it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's taken a long time to get us there. But there are a lot of people who ask that question to me and to other people with disabilities, and I would just say get to know people and try to understand the subtleties of their life, and not every person who chooses to embrace help from their family or their friends is relying on others, right? I take help from people all the time. That doesn't mean that I'm incapable. It doesn't mean that I'm not independent or that I'm not at the head of my own self-determination. It just means that I accept assistance just like any other human being when it's required and when it would be helpful. And I also pick moments where things are harder for me to do, but I do them anyway to make a point of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to have that balance, just like I would hope that anyone would have that balance, disability or not.
Right. Now, we all know, people that work at the School for the Blind here, you have a wonderful service dog named Pongo. Adorable.
Yes.
But my other question off of that is, do you talk to him at all?
Do I talk to him?
Yeah, or does he talk to you?
Do you know him? Does he talk to me? I suppose in his way he does talk to me. He bores into your soul with his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
He whacks me with his tail, and he will boof or make a noise. But it is really funny to me when people ask me, Pongo is a guide dog, right? And so he's been through training. A guide dog, people who are familiar with what guide dogs are, service animals, guide dogs, they are essentially the eyes of the partnership between the dog and the person is the navigation. So when people ask me, does your dog talk to you, they're assuming that I'm walking along with my dog and my dog's like, yo bro, you gotta turn left, man, right? Or, hey dude, there's a big crack in the road up ahead, we gotta go this way. Like, that's not how it works. Like, the dog, my dog Pongo, and all guide dogs are trained for obstacle aversion and for certain other identification needs when traveling to be safe. It is kind of funny, like that. To imagine my dog having like some sort of like inner voice that speaks to me or that gives me directions on where to go. I would really encourage everyone to do a little bit more understanding of try to do a little bit more research and understanding of what a guide dog actually does, because I think that when they see us with a dog, they think that all the burden of thinking and doing and acting has been taken over by the dog, and basically like I'm just holding on for dear life, like I'm running through life like an Iditarod with my guide dog.
No, they're a tool, and you're directing them on where you want to go, and
exactly.
they help you through that process.
Exactly, but it is kind of funny. I don't know what, I've always thought what voice would my dog have, and I've always landed on Pauly Shore or some voice like that. I can imagine, the dogs from Homeward Bound.
Yeah. Well, you should get Pongo some Steven Tyler PJs.
I don't think anyone's going to know what that joke is, but for anyone who has seen the movie Son-in-Law, you will know what that joke means.
Do you hate being blind?
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's pretty heavy.
No. I don't hate being blind. I've been given a wonderful life with a lot of wonderful experiences. I've met a lot of wonderful people. I've learned a lot of things about myself. I don't think I would be as comfortable with myself, as confident in myself, if I weren't blind. And I think what I mean by that is being blind has given me an opportunity to learn more about myself than I may have ever gotten as someone who wasn't blind. I know my personality pretty well. I'm a pretty outgoing, gregarious person, and I think that I would have gotten into a lot of great things in my life, but I think I also would have not understood a lot of things. I think I would have struggled in some areas. I think that being blind has helped me in some of those areas. It's helped me to better connect with people, to listen to people, to be empathetic and sympathetic, to be patient, to be kind and humble, to be watchful, to be an advocate. It's taught me skills that so many people who aren't disabled never really get a chance to explore. Not to say that they wouldn't be just as good if they had the chance to explore those those traits and skills, but I feel like it's really, I feel like I'm a better person because I'm blind, and I know that sounds really weird when you hear it. It sounds weird when I say it, but I truly feel comfortable in my skin. I hate certain things about being blind. I hate not being able to get around independently, at any given moment.
Play video games. Well, that goes to say with anything though, would you want to have this disability or anything that is not what the society considers normal? Many individuals should state that it makes them who they are. So
Right. I think that there's always something in our lives within each and every one of us that is like our guiding compass. For someone, it might be disability. For another person, it might be religion. For another person, it might be service to their fellow humanity, right?
Mhm.
For others, it might be military, right? I think there's always a guiding compass that kind of chisels us into who we're going to become, through those trials and tribulations, through those, when you're forged in those fires. I miss certain parts of having sight. I hate certain parts of being blind, but I do not hate being blind. I don't know if I would be as powerful if I weren't,
I understand.
and I am powerful.
Can you elaborate on being powerful?
Yeah, I'm powerful for myself, speaking for myself. I'm powerful for speaking and protecting others. I'm powerful for our movements. I'm powerful in knowledge of legislation and education and advocacy. I'm powerful and rich in experience. I'm powerful as a peer to people who are growing up, who are just like me, or who have other disabilities, who need someone who's not only fighting for them but showing them what to do to integrate in this world, to kick ass in this world and not just be a statistic. Powerful enough to also be an example to families who worry about their kids that a disability is not a death sentence. A disability really is just another way of just beginning your life.
I like how you said that. So speaking of like maybe a private business owner, why should I hire someone who has a disability when I have other candidates who are not disabled to some extent?
Well, I mean, I could go into all the stuff that we've already talked about, but I'll just go from a different angle here. I believe I just saw Axios had this: by 2050, 1 in 3 people will be considered to have a disability. When I look at when companies and organizations and corporations are trying to reach the most people, to connect with people through marketing and advertising, to understand people's tendencies and to understand people's abilities, to further products, to be more inclusive. Why wouldn't you want somebody who's blind on your staff, giving you insight into a third of the population, which is going to require a lot more of our attention and resources, once we get closer to 2050. So I think that you want me in your company because I give you something that no one else in your company has, which is insight into one of the largest consumer groups in the world, which is the disabled population. And before you say that disabled people don't have money and that they don't spend, well, we do. We make money, we have jobs, we have lives. We also have different organizations that support us that also have purchasing power too. So you, as a business owner myself, I never turn down a revenue stream.
All right. Do you want to talk about your business, or you want to say more
No,
later?
we don't need to talk about that.
Here's a little left turn here, but in your opinion, are blind people better at sex?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, think about this, right? Just take sex down to the part where you're just talking about the connection, right? Like, I can look at my girlfriend and be like, damn, you're hot. Like, I'm ready to go. Let's do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there is just this, even just taking a finger and brushing it down the skin of your partner and feeling the extra sensory firing that occurs in that moment, hearing your finger brush across their skin, feeling their breath quicken and their temperature of their body rise, hearing, and feeling their reaction to you, and then, just putting that into all the other parts of sex and romance. I truly think that romance and sex can be very visual sometimes, and for those, take blindfolding for example. Why do you think people find blindfolding so exciting when it comes to
Intercourse?
Huh?
Intercourse?
Yeah.
The unknown.
Right. Well, it's not just the unknown though. It's so just like you're temporarily shutting off one of your senses, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, everything is it just magnifies. Your hearing, your smell, your sensing just magnifies in that moment. The anticipation. You don't know what's going to happen next because everything is based off of every other sense, but the one that you use 95% of the time, which is your eyes. And really getting to know your partner's body intimately and every little place and crevice that turns them on and gets them going, and then also them in return to you is just amazing. I think that it used to be my pickup line growing up. Like, honestly, like you can't just have sex with somebody who's sighted. You got to have sex with somebody who's blind for comparison. So I do believe that blind people have a more intuitive, tactile, and sensory approach to sex, which I think people should experience. So go have sex with a blind person, basically, is what I'm saying.
Very good. I'll put that on my to-do list.
And trust me, they're looking for sex.
Oh boy. What do you think your friends really think of your abilities?
Depends on the friend.
No, we're not talking Daredevil.
I think that I actually believe that my friends and family have an honest appraisal of my best abilities and my not so best abilities, and I'm okay with that. I think that sometimes my friends can be a little bit, I don't want to say alarmed or astounded that I did something, but I think I find myself continuously surprising people, even though to me, I'm no surprise. However you want to phrase that or term that, I'm not sure. I don't think it's a negative thing. I think that it can be a positive thing. But
it's because you contradict the narrative. You're
do.
proving people wrong every day.
Uh-huh.
And I've even said things to you like that. But then I kind of eat my words that it's just, you got to figure out how to verbalize it better than, wow, you're blind, your house is cleaner than I expected it to be.
Right, that's one that I get a lot is, wow, for somebody who's blind, your house is really clean. And that is that's a prime example, right? Like I think that it's good to shake up the narrative with you and your friends, because you don't want to get into assumptions, and you don't want to get into, like you said, what did you call it, the norm or
the narrative?
The narrative, yeah, right. Like you don't. So I don't actively pursue ways to throw my friends off and like garner some sort of inspiration, porn type of adulation from them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think my friends have a good understanding of what I am and am not capable of, and I also feel strong enough with my friends to tell them my strengths and weaknesses.
That's good.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Since you are blind, will you get an abortion?
Whoa.
Which makes no sense. But,
well, why does it make sense?
Well, you don't have female reproductive organs.
Okay, that's the obvious, but that question is asked to me and my partner as a couple. Right. So, when I've been asked that question in the past,
that's even more controversial in my opinion.
Yeah, when I've been asked that, because you're basically, I've had mostly blind partners or low vision partners in my life, and on 2 occasions, where both myself and my partner were blind. We were asked if we would have an abortion if we had a child because we were both blind. And I don't think I can think of a more offensive question, because this question was asked, but also it was asked in light of everything that me and my partners had accomplished.
Yeah.
And I think that's what was more aggravating.
To undercut.
Exactly.
And
to undercut the possibility. We can talk about like what I think about raising a child who's blind in the world. I don't think that anyone should shy away from that. I respect people's choices, whatever they are, but you can raise a fully functioning, integrated, successful, beautiful, wonderful blind person in this world who can do many great things. And there are millions of examples of that around the world. We just don't ever get a chance to show people.
Mm-hmm.
So that question is based out of ignorance. That question is also based out of the fact that we don't see strong, successful people with disabilities or blindness in the media, portrayed in movies, portrayed in music. We're always the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
The disability is always a Martin Short film and a Richard Pryor film.
Well, you got Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles, but
I don't.
do you know?
I'm just going to dispel this rumor now. I don't know Stevie Wonder. I don't know Ray Charles. The blind community is not that small. We don't have get-togethers on Sunday. We don't call each other at home. Okay, we don't. Stevie and Ray have their own issues. People think that they're these amazing ambassadors to blindness, but they're not. They don't have that perfect connection to blindness. And for example, like Stevie Wonder, he has a lot of people that are paid to take care of stuff for him. Now, I'm not saying that if I had the money, I wouldn't do that either, but there are a lot of examples between a few famous blind people of, basically paying people to coddle them and take care of them and do things for them. And that's not a strong role model for blind people. They've been incredibly successful people who have carved out a great career, and they are titans in their industry to some extent. But these are not heroes. These are not people you look up to as blind people. The people you look up to as blind people need to be the blind engineer at Microsoft, or the girl who's low vision who's working at Amazon in human resources. Another blind person working at Apple. The person learning, the blind guy who climbed Mount Everest, right? Like, those are the heroes and the people that we should be looking up to, because they're breaking barriers. All those guys did was sing a song.
Fair. All right. Well, we're close to 40 minutes. Do you have a couple more questions?
Yeah, let's finish up.
Okay. Let's see. Can I pray for you?
No. There is nothing I want less. I cannot tell you how many times I'll just be standing, minding my own business. The most recent time was in the airport when I was waiting for my flight. People will literally come up and just say, "You need more Jesus in your life, and I'd like to pray for you. Can I pray for you?" And it's insulting. One, because you're assuming that I'm religious, which I'm not. Okay? Second of all, no amount of prayer has ever turned somebody sighted in my life. Now, you can say that one example in the Bible is somehow fact, but that doesn't really work in the real world. And I've been prayed for a lot, and it still hasn't done shit. So stop praying for me, stop asking to pray for me, and stop asking to pray for complete strangers. We don't want your prayers. We don't want your pity. Give us money, and we'll go buy ourselves something nice if you want to do something for us.
Mm-hmm.
Or we'll go or go donate to a charity that does good things for rehabilitation of people with disabilities. But spare me your prayers. I don't need that.
Yeah. Well, you're a very capable person. How do you go to the bathroom without help?
Oh, I think this is funny. Actually, there's really is a technique that I could describe to you. So, if you're blind and you're having some issue with aiming, there's kind of a standing strategy where you just kind of nestle up to the toilet and kind of bend your knees a little bit and strategically place your legs on each side of the bowl and just let it rip, or some people sit down, right? As far as wiping, I can't even believe, that some people literally believe that it's okay to ask me that question. Some people make a catcher's mitt with toilet paper around their hand. Some people just wad it up and wipe front to back. We have a lot of different strategies, Hell, if I want to use a sponge on a stick, whatever. But
whatever works for you.
Keep it, you really cheapen the connection that we could have and things that you could learn about by asking stupid questions like that.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say about that.
And I'm really curious about this last question here, Matt. Do you want to touch my face so you can be able to see me?
No. I can hear you and smell you, and if I got close enough, I could somewhat see you, and honestly, I have really no interest in touching your face, and I'm never really quite sure where this came to be, that somehow by feeling your face, I could instantly know who you are as a person. I remember one time a girl asked, do you want to feel my face to see if you want to go out with me? And my reaction was, well, what about the rest of you?
Yeah.
Are you going to let me feel that too? Or are you just going to let me do a thorough pat down here? That doesn't seem right. We need to obviously get to know each other. And it's kind of ignorant for you to ask a stupid question like that. Do you want to touch my junk to see if to get to know me? Do you want to touch my face to get to know me? I'd never quite understand that.
Yeah, I don't either. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, I'm glad we could spend this time here today. Anything
There's
else?
one more question you have.
There's one more question, is there?
Yeah.
Can you do the same things as Daredevil?
No. Obviously not.
I didn't think so.
Ben Affleck is a very attractive man, and Jennifer Garner is way out of my league.
Yeah, the Netflix show is much better anyway.
Yeah. I will say, I don't have a problem with a superhero who's blind, and I think that some people think that superheroes detract from the real conversation about disability, but I actually find some fantasy regarding having blindness refreshing. I wish there was more of it, because at least it gives me something to enjoy, but also it actually, I don't think that seeing a blind guy do a backflip into a karate chop is exactly like educational TV, but at least it doesn't show a blind person walking into a glass window for comedy purposes.
Yeah, in the middle of a busy street.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
There's one more on your other sheets.
Oh, yes, that's right. Pardon me.
It's okay, I just want to be thorough.
Oh, yes, this is probably one of the best. Should you be teaching people with a disability since you have one?
Absolutely.
And what must society do to treat you equally?
Well, to the first one, I absolutely think that people with disabilities should be teaching other people with disabilities. When I was growing up, I went to a school for the blind where hardly any of the staff members were blind. It was mostly sighted teachers telling me how to be blind. None of them had ever experienced the world as a blind person, gone through it as a blind person. And so I always felt like it was really funny that I had all these people telling me how to be blind, and I always just struggle with that. I think that there has to be inclusion of blind, low vision, and deaf-blind teachers and educators working hand in hand with, or without sighted teachers to help rehabilitate our kids and get them ready for adulthood. I think that I provide a lot of experiences and knowledge and life hacks of ways that I've learned how to do things that could help other students, things that other people probably wouldn't have learned because they weren't in my position. And there's things that I've learned from other people who are disabled that I've included in my toolbox when working with students. So having that disabled community as a part of the education community is essential, especially when you talk about those statistics we were talking about earlier. with more and more people becoming disabled.
Yeah.
The world treating me equally, is that what you said?
Yeah, what must society do to treat you equally? And you personally, or you as part of the blind community as a whole? I'm not sure where you want to go with that exactly.
I would say that when all websites are accessible, when every corner of society is accessible to me, when I show up to a restaurant and have a Braille menu, when you and I go out to a retail shop and people talk to me instead of talking to you when I'm asking questions about a product, when someone sees me as valuable as an employee without a disability, when the problem here is that the world is not set up for everyone to participate. The world is only set up for what's considered the normative for people to participate. I'm what's considered a part of the others. And when the world doesn't look at me and other people with disabilities like the others, when the world changes its paradigm and how we treat people with disabilities and what opportunities we give them and what we see and think of them and expect from them, then I think we'll be treated equal. And until those artificial and physical barriers are removed, then we're gonna be struggling still. This social society, the framework that society has set up, for people with disabilities to live in this world is not inclusive, and it's not diverse, and it's not equitable. I see that every day, even in its littlest form, all the way to its biggest form. So I just think that we have to really rethink in society, especially our country here in the U.S. We're the worst about it. We have an Americans with Disabilities Act that protects us against a lot of things, but other countries are further ahead than us when thinking progressively about disability. So we might say and do all the right things on paper, but we're still not grasping the entirety and the complexness of what we have to do to achieve full integration and participation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I wish I had more to say on that, but yeah. All right. Well, I think that about wraps it up.
Thank you for learning more about me, and I would encourage anyone who's watching this to reach out and to talk to more people with disabilities. I'm just one person with one narrative out of millions who have experiences and narratives to share. And these can be used to educate and facilitate, that growth and learning for both the disabled and non-disabled. These types of conversations and recordings are really important for historical purposes. For those who are going to look back on this, hopefully this will give some inspiration or some solace going forward for you.